Hello, everyone. My name is Audrey, and I come to you today with Amber and Keith, and we are all peer support facilitators, one of our hats that we wear for Spirit and Soul Wellness Center. And we are starting our first episode in this podcast series in talking about ourselves and our own mental health journeys. So I guess I will start. My name is Audrey, and I am a tenacious Gen Xer. I have an open-hearted mind and a passion for nature and conservation. I love building community and I love lifelong learning. I'm always learning something. Uh, I am a co-facilitator for a peer support group for chronic pain. We have lots of other things in the works, but we're just going to talk today about our mental health journeys. Um, we will kind of talk over this podcast a lot more in depth about our experiences. So that's just kind of like skimming the surface. So I'll let Amber introduce herself.
Sure. Thank you, Audrey. So my name is Amber Chin. I use she, her pronouns. And I am the director of peer support and education at Worth Living, and I co-facilitate some peer support groups for Spirit and Soul Wellness Center. So I co-facilitate with Audrey on the chronic pain peer support group, and I also co-facilitate an in-person group in Halifax for the queer and neurodivergent community. And I'm really excited to be here and to talk more about ourselves and the work that we do. I think peer support and sharing our journeys is so important as a necessary bridge between institutional support and informal supports in providing people a space to feel safe to start talking about mental health, because that conversation can
Absolutely.
be hard to begin. So really excited
Great.
to be here and hear more.
Hi, Keith.
Audrey, okay, thank you. My turn now. I want to thank Audrey for setting this up, the audio video for podcasting. Okay, it's their first run at this. Okay, looking forward to many more. I think it's pretty exciting to be able to see each other. Okay, and to share
It's like a real
the
conversation.
visual as well as the audio. Okay, exactly, it's so much easier. We did podcasts before with Underworld Living. Okay, and it was just the audio, of
Mhm.
course, that's all that was available. Okay, and it was difficult to know when the other person had finished their what they were saying. So it got a bit awkward at times, but nonetheless, here we are today. Okay, welcome everybody. Okay, my name is Keith Anderson, as I mentioned, I think, or maybe not. Peer support, it's a passion of mine. Okay, I'll explain a little bit about what I have been through. Okay, so you're gonna appreciate my words, I guess. Okay, or what I think, how I feel. I had depression many years ago. Okay, for many years, I did not know or recognize it as such. Okay, until I had a breakdown. Okay, lost everything. Okay, years of recovery. Weekly therapy for 2 years. Okay, then once a month for a following year. And it was difficult. It was challenging. It was hard work. Okay, I was fortunate. I had the resources to go to weekly therapy. Okay, I did not know there was a system out there. Okay, that didn't function very well for in terms of healthcare, especially mental health care. And then I got get a lot healthier. Okay, and looked at myself and the world that I was sort of in now back then, and it was like, what do I do now? Do I go back and practice the law, or do I continue in the mental health world? And tough choice, okay, for sure. But
Hmm.
yeah, I kind of stuck with mental health, obviously, and that was my first sort of engagement with the bigger world. Okay, was 2008. Okay, so I've been sort of at this for a while. I enjoy it greatly. Okay, I like helping people, supporting other people. I like sharing my journey and hearing other people share theirs. Okay, that's so important. And yeah, a few years ago, okay, I did the training and examination by Peer Support Canada to be certified as a peer support specialist. So I bring that to the discussion, I guess. I tend to talk a lot.
That's a good intro, actually, because
Okay.
our first question was going to be like, what brought you to peer support? And that you've kind of already, you've already kind of like established
Yeah.
that. So like
Yeah,
your whole story is like the intersection between like the, uh, you know, the world of law and and then mental health, and then realizing
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
kind of saw yourself more as a mentor or guide for people that are also experiencing the same things. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. It was kind of like a more comfy spot to be.
Yeah. 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 For sure. Yeah. 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 And it took a
Hmm.
while. I had to learn a lot because the legal world is different
I
from
can
the mental
imagine.
health
Yeah.
world, obviously. Okay. Adversarial system back then, butting heads, if you will, kind of, acting on behalf of your client and so on. Okay. This world
Hmm.
is empathy. Not in my vocabulary before. Okay. Didn't know what the word meant. Had never used the word. Okay. Until recent years. Okay. And had to kind of learn how to feel like that,
Hmm.
how to kind of sort of think like that. Okay. Because it wasn't a natural thing for me to do. Okay. So I had those kind of things I had to learn. And it got to be a passion. Okay. I met great people like the two of you, Amber, Audrey. And that meant a lot to me. Okay. To connect with other people. Okay. And go, hey, yeah.
Hmm.
And share a similar language. When somebody explains who they are and what they have been through, what their journey is like, it's like, okay, it may be different backgrounds, different ages, different illnesses, perhaps even,
Hmm.
but there's a
You're right.
language that we share. Okay. And you just know other people get it. They get it. Okay. And understand it. And that
For
brings such
sure.
comfort.
Having the same
Right.
experience
Keeps
as
us
other
safe.
people
Yeah.
and like having that conversation, because like you were saying,
Mm.
when you're
Yeah.
kind of depressed or having really poor mental health, a lot of times we feel like we're isolated from people because of it. And then when you realize that, oh no, like other people feel like this, it's a normal thing. Um, it makes you feel like way less alone.
Mm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Uh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I think I could come in and talk about my experience with peer support and how I got involved because I think that that ties in. Um, so I got involved with peer support because I've lived
Hmm.
my life with depression and anxiety, but I also live with fibromyalgia, so I have a chronic pain disorder, which why chronic pain is a passion of mine. Um, but it was like navigating the different it was navigating through like the different avenues of healthcare and mental health care that I realized that there was this huge gap in like understanding how folks with chronic pain
For
are
sure.
impacted with their mental health and how that like intersects and that experience. And I remember feeling very isolated and alone, like you were talking about, and wishing that like in the early stages of trying to figure out what was going on with my body and how to understand that, how to like how to like understand the great how to like mentally prepare for the
Mm,
pain that I was going through on a daily basis with little support. I would have really benefited from having somebody who I could talk to and explain my experiences because folks who don't have chronic pain don't really understand it in the same way. And so for me, I got involved with, I met Keith, and together we worked together to bring the chronic pain peer support group to Nova Scotia to kind of bridge that gap because it's something that would have like really helped my own mental health journey and would have like alleviated some of the pain and the struggle that I experienced like trying
hmm.
to do that on my own for a couple of years. Like I feel like I could have escalated my recovery or how I was like um just managing on a day-to-day basis better if I had more
For sure.
peer support or any
I love
support
that
that was geared
you made
towards my
that
mental
point
health.
of I wish I had this sooner because it would have helped me on my journey. And then realizing that you could be that person for someone else. And they're like, okay. Because oftentimes with chronic pain or mental illness, like it doesn't start with the diagnosis. It starts way before a diagnosis, right? So you're experiencing things differently and not understanding it necessarily as something that is affecting your life until like it does. And then you're like, okay. And sometimes even after a diagnosis, we don't get a lot of guidance from our medical doctors. So we have to kind of do it on our own, figure it out. Like that's how I felt after my fibromyalgia diagnosis. And even just recently, my ADHD diagnosis, I'm in my 40s, and just finding out these things about myself. So it's very much like I feel the same way. Like if I had that diagnosis or that tool when I was in school or growing up, then it would have been a lot easier to like navigate.
Sure. Yeah. And just to sort of for people listening and watching, okay, shortly after Amber and I got together to do a proposal, okay, for funding for the chronic pain group, we had to bring another facilitator. I hate the word. I can't say
It's
the
such
word.
a broad term.
Facilitator. Okay. Yeah, on board. Okay. We chose Audrey. Okay. And she's been involved from day one as well. Okay. So it's been a great team effort. Okay. And I think that is also important in terms of mental health. Okay. It's just not me alone trying to do a program.
That's a good point.
Support the three of us.
So
talk
that was one of the things that
Yeah.
I liked about our working relationship was that we could give each other grace because we were coming from the same place. So if we weren't feeling well, or if we weren't feeling something, or we need support, then we can support each other, and we're understanding. I think that's so important too, in workplace settings, like for office. So part of the services that we do are consultation services, for companies that have employees and that want to invest in their well-being. And so we think it's important to kind of build that culture from the ground up in your business, because it just helps everyone in the long run. It helps productivity. It helps, if I'm way more productive because I know that I can do things when I can do them, when I can physically and mentally do them, and that there's not that like stress of, oh my goodness, like we have to, obviously there's deadlines, but we're all very good at supporting each other through those things.
Definitely. Yeah, and that's the whole idea of what we do together. Okay, within ourselves, there's no deadline as such. Okay, there's no if we have to switch a meeting to another day, we can easily. It's not a big deal. Okay, all those things we work well together, basically. Okay, which I think is so important. Okay,
And I think all work kind of starts from that point of having a team that supports each other. Because if I can't rely on Audrey, if I'm having like we're doing a group together and maybe I have lower energy and I can't lean on Audrey on my team, then the group itself kind of struggles more than it needs to. And like the work itself struggles. And I think we need to like acknowledge the impact that the workplace has on the mental health of the employees, because it always filters down to whatever kind of work you're doing.
Absolutely.
Whether it's mental health or other
things.
And like I mentioned, okay, some of the consulting work that we do is workplace, is focused. Okay, I've done presentations on a psychologically safe and healthy workplace, for example. Okay, I did one during COVID. It was online. Okay, because back then everything shut down. Okay. But a colleague of mine, okay, in Ontario, she was looking for a keynote speaker for a conference, okay, and she asked me 2 weeks before the conference, so I knew it wasn't the first choice. Okay, somebody else was chosen, and they backed up for some reason. She came to me, okay, which was fine, okay, yeah, and we had about 200 people attend, okay, HR departments basically, okay, throughout Ontario. And my friend colleague named Michelle said, I can do 45 minutes or an hour, and we do a Q&A session. She said, no, Q&A, they will not ask questions. They will not be interested. I said, okay, fine. Okay. We had 20 minutes of questions when I was done.
You must have did a good job at having that safe space for people to talk, right?
Yeah, well, that's the whole idea as well. Peer support, it has to be a safe place, right? That's sort of one of the main things we set up: respect, safe, comfortable place for people to share. So that's sort of how I present and talk about on many things. And the idea was, do my presentation and be done. Okay, but they liked the discussion. Okay, they were interested. I mean, during COVID especially, right? People were concerned about mental health and how the workplace would be affected and so on. So those kind of topics, okay, are so relevant still, so important, okay, and so helpful for in many regards, from productivity in the workplace, okay, helping fellow employees, okay, get through certain situations, okay, workplace, somebody breaks a leg, everybody helps them, right?
Yeah.
Somebody at their desk with depression,
right?
no,
Just changing the framework for people
we got to get
to be, to have
Yeah.
the words to use even. Because sometimes I feel like that is like for some
Yeah.
people don't know exactly what to say. Like, oh, I don't know what to say to the person or whatever. But like honestly,
Yeah.
just having that
That's true.
open dialogue and
Yeah.
being able to like I know one thing that helps
Right.
too is like when you're talking to
Yeah.
people is just saying like, do you want to vent or do you want to problem solve? Can you guys agree? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's a
Yeah.
difference, right? So there's people that will come because they
Yeah.
want to talk something out
Yes.
and through, and there's some people that want just you to listen and then they're okay. Um, how do you build trust and rapport
Yeah.
with someone that's hesitant to seek help?
I think a lot of like building trust and rapport comes like it always comes from yourself, of course. Like it comes from presenting this version of yourself and showing up as a real version of
Mm-hmm.
yourself, as authentic, as not changing who you are naturally, because that's the thing that people are going to relate to. They're going to relate to your story and they're going to relate to your personality. They're going to relate to the fact that you're
For
a
sure.
real, complicated, nuanced person. And so I think a lot of that does involve just like being open, being friendly, and genuinely, I think it's something that you have to have a desire to do. Like you have to have a genuine wish to connect with people
Mm-hmm.
that people can see in your body language and how you present yourself to them because you genuinely want to know their story and you want to listen to them and hear what they have to
Yeah.
say because people respond to that
People can
idea of being
smell
seen
BS
and
from a
validated.
mile away.
I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to be authentic.
You being authentic
Yeah.
is so
Right.
so
I am.
key.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like you have to actually care.
Right.
And
Like they can
yeah.
tell if you're doing it performatively or if
And
you're
like
just sitting there because you're paid
I know
to.
like
Like
Brene
you
Brown and
genuinely
she
care.
says the whole like sympathy versus empathy. So like having sympathy is being like, oh, that's I feel so bad for you and da 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 da. And then empathy is sitting with that person while they talk to you about that thing. And trying to put yourself in their shoes, not to just
Yeah, and being
disassociate
willing
from
to
the
do that.
actual thing that's happening. Um,
And I think that that's something that we like brought that was really important when we
mhm.
started like our chronic pain peer support group was that sometimes folks will overemphasize like a positive approach or overemphasize a need to like reframe everything that you're saying and to be very cautious. And what was important to me in creating the chronic pain group was that like we needed to be able to have a space where we
Yeah.
could talk about like the darkness and the sadness and the anxiety and actually feel and talk about how bad it is as it feels, like without trying to
Hmm.
like reframe that or try to revoice that or try to get them to see it in a certain light. And like it's not to say that our group we don't try to bring them back up after, but like we have to be willing to go as dark as they currently are and see how they are in that space before we can even think about like trying to bring hope back into the conversation or trying to bring
Absolutely.
a level of peace to them. Like we have to be able to have that darkness
Just
and not all
be
your
like
support
real.
groups
It's
or
it's
like
real.
supports in general allow
And
that.
some
Yeah, be real. People are really in the
mhm.
dark and they need it to be
Absolutely.
seen.
I also wanted to point out that I was in mental health and support services for 2 decades. And the whole time, obviously the model has changed. So, back when I first started, it was a health model. So anyone that, had like, any kind of diagnosis was treated in the health spectrum and they needed help and stuff like that. And they needed you to do stuff for them. And then it changed to, walking alongside someone on their path. But the whole time, there's always this emphasis on professionalism and not, boundaries and not being real. And so we were supposed to put ourselves on these high pedestals as, like we're, superhumans that don't have feelings or, have things go wrong. And so like I've never connected with people properly while pretending to be okay all the time. Like I think the more profound and the more profound moments and the most impact that I made is when I was super real about where I was coming from. I'm not going to complete like, if I'm in a position of, power over somebody, I'm not going to have, completely tell them my whole life, but I'm gonna be like, you know what? We all mess up. We all do these things. We all feel these ways, and I'm gonna be vulnerable with you because I feel comfortable. And how can we expect people to feel vulnerable with us if we're not comfortable doing it ourselves? So that's kind of the way I look at it.
Yep. Yep. For sure.
And what do you think, Keith? I know you've been doing peer support for a while, so what are your thoughts on that?
Um, yeah, real authentic. Okay. One of the foundations, in my
Hmm.
opinion, of peer support of recovery in terms of mental health. Okay. Hope, a major component of peer support as well. Okay. The idea of healing. Now, people in mental health, that they're like Audrey says, I mean, things have changed over the years. Okay. The idea of mental health
No.
and recovery didn't go together. Okay. I mean, no. Okay. I mean, am I healthy now? Yeah. Mentally, yeah. Okay. 100% no. Never will be. Never was probably. Okay. I don't think anybody is. Because
And do you need to
physically,
be?
I'm not 100%. Like I broke my ankle many years ago, my right ankle.
Yeah.
Okay. And some days it's still sore. Okay. So physically, I'm not 100%. I have arthritis. Okay. Since I was a kid. That's my chronic pain. Okay. It's just part of who I am. Okay. So 100% no. Mentally, it's the same.
Hmm.
Okay. But what I bring is me. Okay.
Good
I'm an
point.
expert
Yeah.
at me. Okay. As we all are. Okay. I mean, nobody knows me better than I do. Okay. I mean, and that's the point of view I have is mine. Okay. And I bring that. I share it. Like Audrey says, not my life story sometimes, but there are times when I do
Hmm.
share my journey a fair bit. I've been quite open about it. Okay. I don't know why, okay, but I have been from day one, it seemed. It's just important to sort of share what I've been through to help others. Okay. And I did, when I first started doing speeches and such, I didn't even think about that part of it. Okay. I remember I gave a speech in my hometown, okay, many
Hmm.
years ago. Kind of scary. Well, for weekly therapy, I hadn't left my house in years, in 4 or 5 years or more. I hadn't even left,
You're
so
like
to
big,
go to a
go big or go
conference with
home,
600
right?
people there.
Totally.
Well, that was so like, and I went early like I usually do, okay, and I thought, anxious like I've never been. Okay. When I practice, like I can do a 5 day trial like nothing. Okay. Okay. This was a whole different, atmosphere. And I walked in and I met Miles Burke, chief of police. Okay. Now, Miles and I have been friends for years. Okay. And he rushed over, he hugged me, we shook hands, we sat down for a half hour, and he doesn't want to know how I was. Okay. And by his doing that for me, set the tone for the whole day for
Hmm.
me. I felt comfortable. I felt belonged. I felt safe. There was a sense of connection. Okay. Unexpected, you know, but by his sharing, I share.
Kind of like
That's,
paved the way for you. Like,
that's,
okay, this is
okay.
okay for me to do. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Then I could take the stage and talk about what I had been through. Okay. In a incredibly nervous way. But I shared it. Okay. I felt the sense of belonging. Okay. Which I had not
That's a
felt
great
for
word,
many years.
belonging, right?
So,
Everyone's looking
you know,
for their people.
yeah. Well, yep. It's
Hmm.
that's been huge for me, Audrey, to belong somewhere, to fit in somewhere. Okay. And some groups I met along the way in my journey, yeah, I felt I fit in from day one. I felt comfortable. I mean, we did a lot of work together.
Yeah.
Okay. Other groups, not so much. Okay. And I would quickly move on from those groups because I didn't fit there. Okay. And when I left, I felt so much better. Okay. So
As a
I
late,
look after myself.
yeah, no, not selfish
It's
to
not selfish to
have
do so.
self-care. Like, as a late diagnosed
Yeah.
ADHD or can't even say it. Um, I can completely resonate with not fitting in because I felt the same way my whole life until till I started being
Yeah.
vulnerable and I started talking to people about my actual experiences, not like what I thought people wanted me to say. And like the title of this podcast, the beginning is Unmasking Minds, and we chose that because a lot of us are wearing our masks, right?
Yeah.
A lot. and I was masking since I was a child. So, to think about it's so vulnerable to think about taking your mask off and just being who you are as a person and just showing up
Mm.
and seeing what
Oh,
happens.
oh. Yeah, that's a tough one. You're right. That's a
Hmm.
challenge. Okay, to go
Yeah.
vulnerable. Whoa. Okay, not my background. Okay, not my personal professional
Right.
background to be vulnerable. No way. Okay, I mean you just didn't.
No, it wasn't mine either. I wasn't
Yeah.
used to the idea of being vulnerable. Even counseling is something that like when I was going through my journey to start getting help for my mental health, I was dealing with it since I was a teenager, since I was like 15, maybe even younger. I would even go so far as maybe 13. And I didn't go and get counseling until I was at university. Because in my family, it's kind of
Mm.
something that you deal with on your own. It's something that you manage and you just power through and that's how it is. And so for me to like even going in as a counselor, my family is still adjusting to the idea that that's something that I want to do with my
Mhm.
life, because the idea of like having institutional support for your mental health in any capacity is strange.
Yeah.
But I grew up in a very small northern town. I grew up in Labrador and Newfoundland, and those kind of resources are
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
not there anyway. So like that is kind of how the
Yeah.
community has had to live. And so like this is all new to my family and to me. And so navigating it is it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, that
Because you're like,
unmasking
what?
piece.
I remember growing up in I grew up in rural Nova Scotia, and it's like my family was like, well, what will the neighbors think? And it's like I used to always push back when I was younger, but I never stopped pushing back on that. It was definitely not a phase for me, but I was always like, well, what if they thought that? Like, that's okay. Because I know, like he said, I know myself better than anyone. And that's all that matters. And I know that I have good intentions. And I know that I'm not a bad person or whatever you wanted to use as a kind of self-identifying thing. But that's kind of where I came from. I was pushing against that. Of like, I'm not going to act this way just in case someone might judge me.
I remember for me, it was like a lot. I wish I had that level of like self-confidence and assurance in your own perspective, because for me, it took a very long time to like
Hmm.
realize that I needed help, that it needed to be somebody, like I could not deal with it anymore on my own. I had to go and seek counseling in university because it wasn't like it was no longer something that I could hold back, that I had control of. I remember at that point, well, main reason I went was
Hmm.
because I was angry all the time, and I couldn't stop being angry. And I went to my counselor and I said, everything makes me mad. It doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter how small it is, doesn't matter if I should be happy about it. I'm mad about everything. And she let me know that that
Yeah.
is because I have all this pent up emotion and I needed dealing with my mental health and my mental illness more seriously, and actually not just pushing everything down and presenting what everybody wanted me to show, which was that I was fine and I was handling things. That took time. And
Well,
now I'm
now
not
we
so
also
angry,
know that
thankfully.
anger is a secondary emotion, right? So it's like if you're angry about something, there's a
Yeah.
reason, there's another emotion behind that. If is it fear? Is it, shame? There's something attached to that. So when you're young and the adults around you are not act they're acting like what you're going through is normal, then you're gonna think it's normal. And it's not usually the case. Normal is a word I don't like to use, but let's say typical. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
let's yeah.
If you look like you have something to add to that too.
No, I was just thinking. Okay, I was listening. Okay, and thinking. Okay. Great conversation, by the way. Okay. Yeah, my journey is somewhat different. Okay, but it does align
Yeah.
at some point, of course. Okay. Um, life of my childhood, good. Okay, fine. Okay, nothing exceptional. Just a healthy, life of my 20s, phenomenal. Great decade of my life. I look at decades. That's how old I am. Okay, I look back at decades. How I was. Okay, I have my 20s wonderful. Went to university. Okay, did well, enjoyed it. Okay, had a great time. Traveled, did stuff. Okay. Yeah, things went well. Okay. Then my dad died. Okay. At age
So
50.
young, yeah.
Okay. I was 31. Okay. My, my mother was a widow at age 53. Okay. It changed my life. Everyday life changed. Okay. And that's when depression started creeping in. Okay. It took a number of years. Okay. 6, 7 years to really take hold. Yeah, I mean, I started doing stuff I normally didn't do. I mean, I wouldn't go to lunch with friends and colleagues, which is a regular thing. Okay, there's a couple restaurants in Sydney where I live. Okay, yeah, you went there for lunch. Okay, pretty much every day kind of thing. I didn't do that anymore. Okay, I'd hide away for lunch. Okay, I come to the office at 8 o'clock in the morning, pull in the parking lot, take a deep breath, go in and pretend all day that life was wonderful. I was busy, put in a 10-hour day and go home. Okay, cry all night, emotional. I didn't sleep, had insomnia. Okay,
Which does not help with your resiliency.
okay. No, exactly. Okay. And finally, I had a breakdown. Okay. In a way, a good thing that saved me because thoughts of suicide were creeping in. I had a plan. Like I had a,
Yeah.
I bought this house, okay, on a lake. No neighbors, no, okay. A kilometer through the woods to this opening where my house was. Okay. I wanted to hide from the world with my depression creep. I just thought, I gotta get away. I gotta get away. Okay. I bought this huge house. Okay. I'm single. I was single then. Okay. This monster house. Okay. Just for me. Okay. Like, kind of make no sense, but in a strange way it does because I want to hide. Right. And one day I was there about a year. I thought, this is not working. Okay. I mean, I don't feel like I'm hiding away. I still feel smothered. I still feel that people are coming. And nobody can. I didn't tell anybody about a house hardly, let alone, have people over. So one day at the office, I called a client of mine. I said, listen, I bought a house last year. This is where it is. Okay. I need a gate. Okay. And he said, well, we just built this gate for a cemetery. Okay. And he described it. I said, that works. Okay. Next week, he arrived with his crew, okay, and trucks and cement trucks, the whole thing. Puts up this massive gate. Okay. So I would go home, okay, drive through the gate, lock it up, go into my house, okay, hide, park in the garage, go in, no lights on hardly, okay. Still didn't work. I still felt smothering. I still felt I couldn't breathe. I couldn't function. Okay. And then thoughts of suicide started to creep in. Okay. I don't even want to talk about that, Harley, because it's scary still to me. Okay. So the breakdown saved me. It took me to an unhealthy workplace. Okay. Breakdown. I had to get help. I had to turn to family. I did all the stuff, okay, to get healthy, okay, because I had to. I was a ball collapsed on the floor, okay, from practicing law at high level one day. 5 days later, completely collapsed. Okay, so
Yeah.
That's how it works.
that's my journey.
Is the
Okay, so it
time.
does align with what what two of you have been through. Okay,
Yeah.
this is a different context to start with, I think. Okay,
Yeah.
so like I was 42 when I was diagnosed. Okay, so it
Yeah.
took me, I was a lot older. Okay, but still, nonetheless, the impact was severe. Okay, devastating, everything.
You were masking extraordinarily.
Not just for me, but yeah. Oh, exactly. I was masking to myself as well. I didn't get it myself what was happening. Okay, and devastating to me, but also to my family, what they went through. My mother, my sister, her husband, and my niece and nephew, what they all
Right.
went through.
Well,
The
they were
support.
supporting you because they loved you. Which I was
Okay, I mean,
burden.
exactly.
Yeah.
I was fortunate I had that. Lots of people don't have that in their life. Okay,
I thought it was interesting
So yeah,
when you talked about the
I'll shut up now.
physical,
Okay.
the physical boundaries that you put up. Like, not only were you putting up those mental boundaries, but you were like, "Do not come near me." Like physically come near me.
Yeah.
Like I don't want you near me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, no.
Yeah, of course,
I
of
laugh about
course.
it now,
But at the
okay?
time,
I
you're
laugh about
you're
the
like,
gate.
didn't realize
this
you were
massive
what
weight.
you were doing at the
Yeah.
time, right? Well, you probably did,
Oh,
but you weren't like realizing like what
oh
that
yeah.
meant for your mental health.
Yeah.
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 And
Exactly.
I
I
think
didn't
it
get it.
comes like
Okay. I didn't
like you said,
understand it.
high
Okay.
functioning
I
people,
just need.
like, and then you have that guilt that comes along too, right? Because you're
Yeah.
like, oh, well, I'm the person that everyone
Oh
comes
yeah.
to
Yeah.
for help, and here I am needing help. There's something wrong with me. But
Oh
really,
yeah.
you would never say that to your
Yeah.
friend
Yeah.
who came up to you and said, hey, I need help. You would never
No.
be like, ah,
No. No.
get over it. You know what I mean? But we do that to ourselves all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. That
same.
was the
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
And as a lawyer, even more so. Okay. I mean, yeah, I helped
Mhm.
other people with their problems. Okay. And then the one time I had challenges. Okay.
Yeah.
Nobody came.
Yeah.
Okay. My family, like I just said, wonderful. Okay. And I'll say my immediate family, incredible.
Yep.
Rest of my family, terrible. Okay. My friends, my colleagues, I had two friends who were friends, but like I didn't like, yeah, my not my sort of tight circle. Okay. They came forth and said, Keith, I don't know what to do.
Okay.
We'll figure
I
it
have a
out.
question if you don't mind.
Okay. One guy in
Sorry.
particular,
Um,
yeah, still,
while you were saying that, I just kept thinking, what would have been the difference maker for you? Like, if you can think of anything? If not, that's fine. I'm putting you on the spot. But was there anything that
sure.
you would have thought, looking back, like if someone had said this to me or someone had did this for me, that I would have known I wasn't alone?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, Friends who turned out not to be friends. Okay. Like I said, I had two come around. Okay. Both of whom said, I don't know what to do, but we'll figure it out. One guy, okay, Frankie, okay, great guy still. Okay. I mean, we used to trade services. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's fair to
bartering's
say or
nice.
not. We used to barter. Okay. He used to fix my car. He used to plow my driveway. He used to cut my lawn. He had a crow to do all this kind of stuff. Okay. And, yeah, he would take me for a drive. Okay. Once every couple of weeks, he'd come over and I leave the house for an hour or two. We just go for a drive. Huge.
Mm-hmm.
I left the house.
Little things make a big difference.
Yeah,
They matter.
exactly. Okay. So, and the other fellow, Brendan, okay, who's since passed and I miss him terribly. Okay. Um, my family knew him for years. Okay. I knew him since I was 15 years old. Great guy. Okay. And we did some work together over the years. Okay. Yeah, he took me to Dairy Queen one day. Okay. I had left the house. Okay. Like I said, I didn't go to eat. That's for sure. And went to Dairy Queen one day. Okay. And it was tough to walk in, but I knew I was safe with him. Okay. And that, like we used the word safe earlier in terms of peer support, right? You've got to have a
Yeah.
group of people who feel safe to share. Okay, and that's what the three of us bring in terms of a peer support group.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of our consulting, okay, we offer a safe, comfortable space for people to
What
gather and
was
share. Okay?
Amber?
If you
Yeah,
don't have that, there's no group,
absolutely.
right?
Um, I I think this is sometimes, sorry, we'll come back to you, Amber, because I didn't say anything, but I was just thinking, like, sometimes
Yeah, I'll shut
when
up for
I'm
a while.
feeling really bad, no, you don't have to shut up. We're all, we're all good here. Um, I would have liked if someone just came over and did like watch me fold laundry. I don't know, it sounds weird, but sometimes there's times when you just don't want to be alone but you don't have the energy to like go out.
Yeah.
So like it'd be nice to have those people to call on, like, hey, can you come and like talk to me while I make dinner, or something I hate doing. Could you? Because I don't know about you, but when I'm feeling depressed or not well, I don't take care of myself properly. Like I don't eat properly. I don't always like have the best like sleep hygiene. Like it just things just kind of unravel. So if someone's kind of there, it makes me be like, okay, I have to do this because it's fun because someone's doing it with me. I don't know how to explain it. Uh, Amber, I have to ask, has there been a particularly impactful kind of story from your experience? Um, and maybe when you were recovering or like when you were in college or university, sorry, and you were seeking those things out. Was there something that kind of stands out for you that helped?
Yeah, I would say a lot of the work that I ended up doing for my mental health was very, like, I moved here for university and I didn't have many friends and I didn't have, my family was in another province and that. So a lot of the work I ended up doing was between myself and my counselor. But I remember that my counselor once, we were having a session and I was talking about, like, I've had a couple of experiences where I've been abandoned or like where I'd felt alone. And I remember my counselors looking at me and saying, but when do you show up for yourself? Um, like you're wondering about everybody showing up for you, but like when do you show up for yourself? When do you show yourself that you can do that? Because when I'm
Yeah.
depressed, for instance, like I'm not showing up to take care of me. I'm not showing like my inner self that I can trust me to take care of me. And so in that way, I'm
Oh,
abandoning
I
my own
love
self,
that.
right? Like, so I'm doing this like further pain of abandonment that is self-inflicted. And so whenever I am struggling with my mental health now, I often think of her saying, like, are you showing up for yourself? Like it just shows up in my head, those words, and I get up and I make myself food because I have to be, if nobody is showing up for me or if I'm feeling alone or if I'm struggling, I still need to show my internal self-conscious
It's like a
that I can
self-fulfilling
show up for myself.
prophecy.
That I
You're
can do
kind of in
that
that
work. I can
space where
show
you're
up.
like, no one wants
Yes.
cares or whatever, and then you're not doing that for yourself. And in reality, sometimes we have to deal with it on our own, right? So being able to be there for yourself is so important because or even if you have an amazing support system, no one's going to be there with you 24/7. There are going to be moments when you have to kind of self-regulate. So it's like, okay, what are my tactics? Having a toolbox to pull from. And that's like, that must have been a really big aha moment. Like, huh. Like,
It was huge because it's still in my head. It's still like her words are still there. And sometimes even that like showing up for yourself does
yeah.
mean bringing in other people. Like sometimes it means because I related a lot with
Yep.
Keith's isolation. I still sometimes do that where I live with roommates, and so it's difficult for me to have like space to myself alone. But there are times if I'm going through a hard time, I will just close my door and I won't leave my room for a couple of days, because I'm isolating myself. And so sometimes when I wonder like, am I showing up for me? No, because I'm not leaving the room to go talk to people, the people who care about me, who want to show up for me. And so sometimes it does mean reaching out. Like it's, I don't know, it was very meaningful to me
Uh,
when she said it.
I think for me, like going back to the peer support piece, when I started doing peer support and
Yeah.
seeing how people were showing up for each other in that process was one of the things that gave me fuel. Um, Being in a group of people who did not know each other and are supporting each other through these darkest moments that they're having in their lives and doing it with love and empathy, and they don't even know these people. And it's just like it's so nice to have that connection and be able to have that conversation and have that be like, I don't feel comfortable, or can you help me through this, or let's talk this through, you know. And Amber and I, as co-facilitators, we would show up. We would have like a theme in mind, or we would have like a topic. But sometimes people just needed to chat, and that was fine too. So like just having like the fluidity of just a normal interaction where it didn't have to be like super um what's the word I'm looking for? Like formal or scripted.
Like
Um,
scripted.
People showing up for each other the way that they can that day.
Yeah.
And a big thing too that I like to Amber is anytime that you like were to send out emails to the group or something, you always would emphasize, show up how you are today. There's no expectations that you are going to be, like having a good day or being happy or how show up how you are. And if you can't show up today, that's okay. I think that's really important as well.
Yeah.
I agree because sometimes there's like it reminds me in my queer and neurodivergent group, um, sometimes we have people who show up and they never say anything, but they show up every single week and they sit on the
Mhm.
conversation and they just listen and they don't have to say anything because there's the belonging piece, that connection piece of just being in a group of people that you feel safe,
Being in the
being
room.
in an environment
Yeah.
that feels safe, just being able to enjoy,
Yep.
yeah, being a part of something, even if you're not actively like speaking and being part of the conversation, that doesn't mean you're not doing anything valuable.
I have
but
one
just being
question
there.
that I think is really important for all of us is
Mhm.
how can we reduce stigma around mental health and peer support? How can we reduce stigma? Meaning, in our society, it is getting better because, we have more resources now available to us, and there's a lot more talk about mental health. But I mean, sometimes it is just talk, right? Um, there's not a lot of funding that goes into it. In Canada, it's shocking, actually, how little funding goes into mental health. So there's like kind of this misconception that it's not important, whereas therapy should be just as important as going to your GP. Um, so what would you say to someone that said, I don't want to be one of those people. I don't need help. Sorry, putting you guys on the spot again, but
I would I think I would say that we all need help at some point. And
Mhm.
there it doesn't matter if if you want to say it's mental illness related or not. Like people are going
yeah,
to go through something hard because life is very hard. It's going to be like a marriage or a death or I don't know, a change in job. It could be anything. And whether or not it's mental illness related, sometimes we all need a little bit of help. And there's nothing wrong with going and seeking that out. There's actually like huge strength in doing that because it's hard. The fact that we're struggling and having this conversation about whether or not you should be doing it, or like
hmm
that's a hard conversation to have in the first place. So you're already showing a level of resiliency and openness to care and a level of strength and even considering the
yeah.
fact that you might want to go, right? And nobody has to know. It's okay to just go and see if it works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, there are other resources like peer support, which I think we need more investment in because that offers that middle ground between institutional and informal. So I think I would
Oh,
have a
I love that
conversation around
institutional versus informal. There's a huge gray area there, you know?
that. There's like this middle ground that like we
Right.
don't pay enough attention to that is like peer support related or
hmm
like social services related or like there are other things that are mental health that
Yeah.
don't necessarily have to be
Because let's be real, like I was saying before, like I was in mental health supports for a long time, and sometimes it was super disheartening for people to actually have the courage to say, I need help, and then have them try to contact crisis services and getting their voicemail. Like there has to be other ways, and that's why people like us are stepping up and being like, okay, we're gonna bridge that gap. We're gonna be kind of the supports that's in the background or in the foreground, whatever you need. So it's important to recognize that. Yeah.
and that can build like the trust and comfortability of accessing
hmm
maybe institutional sports later on. Because if you get used to being in a peer support group where you feel like you can talk about your mental health, and be heard and validated by those around you, you might eventually feel more
Yeah.
comfortable talking about it with somebody else. Like it provides that bridge for you to start having that conversation because really that's what matters is if you're thinking about it, just find a way to like engage that conversation a bit more.
That
Explore it.
informal piece is important because I know there are some programs, if they're funded by the government, you have to go like for 10 weeks or else you get kicked out kind of thing. Whereas with peer support, it's like you can just show
Yeah.
up when you show up.
Yep.
Like obviously we want you to participate so
Yeah.
you get what you need out of it, but that's not a mandate that we have. We're not telling you have to show up every week. Um, so I like that distinction for
Mhm.
sure. Anything you want to add to that, Keith?
Yeah. Yeah. Stigma, still a major force out there, I do believe. Okay, I tend to some days I forget that
Yeah.
because my world mental health, I think everybody's on the same page. Okay, and they're not. Okay, I think government. We blame government for so many things. Okay, funding, like we all know, is not there. Okay, I mean, government, for example, they can give, $30 million to run a ferry service, okay, for a few months in the summertime, okay, and then they'll fund a grant of $10,000 for mental health.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Like what am I missing here? Okay, they don't get it. Okay, the for years, I don't know what is lately, but like, government funding for health. Okay, mental health, you see it labeled 3 or 4% of the
Yeah.
budget. Okay, come on. There's nothing you can do with 3 or 4% of the budget. Okay, well, just look at the social determinants of health, right? Housing, major problem nowadays, right? Income, same thing. Cost of living, major problem nowadays. Okay, those are at the top list for the social determinants of health. And if we don't address them, their mental health is everywhere. Okay, if you have no place to sleep tonight, your mental health is not good. Okay, because you're constantly thinking, where can I sleep tonight? Okay, it's getting cold now. Okay, it's wintertime coming. What do I now? How do I live now? Okay, where do I eat? Okay, and if you've got those things in your mind, you can't think of anything else.
You're in survival
Okay,
mode at that
you can't think
point.
about a
Yeah.
job. You need to address
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, so I mean, stigma, yeah, it creeps in everywhere. Okay, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
government doesn't get it, like I said. Okay, other foundations don't get it either. Okay, they'll fund a program for 20 grand sometimes.
Yeah.
Come on. Okay, what you can do with that is very limited. Okay, it's not ongoing. It's not core funding. It's not available here. Okay, other provinces, yeah, there's core funding. Okay, we don't have it here. Every year you have to keep applying for the grants. Okay, you spend more time doing that than providing support for people.
And the consistency is so important with supports.
Oh,
It
yeah.
needs to be reliable. It needs to be
Mhm.
something that people know is going to keep happening.
Yeah.
Because if they start to find that this is like the one support that is helping their mental health,
Yeah,
and then next year
Yeah.
it's not available,
exactly. Yeah,
they're just going to go back to where they were.
yeah, yeah.
They're losing trust.
You're in a program for 12
Yeah.
weeks, then you're done.
Yeah.
Like you're just getting traction
Uh-huh.
with the group of people that you're working
And
with.
like something like
then
peer support's way more sustainable,
Okay.
right? And like if you're involved in
Yeah,
like a monthly
exactly.
program where you're getting supports when you need them. Uh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
We're running out of time, so I just wanted to ask one more question of you guys before we go. And I also want to point out we're gonna have
Sure.
episodes every week, talking about different topics.
Okay.
So
I like that idea.
we will
Yeah.
bring things to the table that we couldn't talk about here today. But one last thing, what role
Yep.
do you guys feel that community plays in recovery and resilience?
I think that community is key. I think that if we could have like the best counselors around. But if there's no community for after they leave the counseling office or even after they leave a peer support session, and there's no
Pardon me.
supports like the social
Mhm.
determinants of health that Keith was talking about, if there's no community to hold you up and maintain the level of mental health that you have achieved through like institutional or peer support, then it's going to be so much harder to maintain alone. We need to know that we are part of a community, like we were
Yeah.
mentioning earlier with that idea of belonging. Belonging matters, connection matters. If we don't have that, if we have communities that are disconnected and isolated and that aren't able to engage with one another because they're all in survival mode, trying to just get through the day, then how are we supposed to be expected to maintain the level of
Absolutely.
mental health that we achieve, mental wellness
Mhm.
that we achieve?
Yeah. For me, I've always had trouble understanding what community meant.
Okay.
Okay. Got another new word for me in this mental health world. Okay, that I had to sort of figure what it meant. Okay. I still don't know if I get it. Okay, so it may be because my community tends to be quite small. Okay, my immediate family. Okay, especially my mother and my nephew.
Yeah.
Okay, the two friends I mentioned. Okay, one of whom has since passed. Okay, but the other, Frankie, is still, you know, all around. Okay, thank goodness. Okay, um, uh, people I work with, two of you, for example. Okay, another gentleman, Ryan Gould. Okay, both know him. You know of him. Okay, you met him online. Okay, we would do a lot of work together. Um, some other people who are involved with the work living, you know, who since sort of gone on to other things, but we're still in contact. Okay, so that's nice. Um, but my community, I keep quite close. Okay, Audrey, I think
Hmm.
when you present earlier was about trust. Okay, who do I trust? Not many people.
That's fair. Yeah.
Okay, I never did. Okay, never did, but I think I'm more cautious now than ever. Okay, like I trust the two of you. I trust my family. I trust a couple others. Okay, that I mentioned. That's kind of it.
So for you, community,
That's my community.
are the people that are in your inner circle.
Yeah, yeah, it's very tight. Okay, like I used to do a lot of volunteer work where I live. Okay, um, I was on board with some group here. Okay, Crossroads Clubhouse. Okay, Crossroads. Okay. I was on it for about 4 years. Okay. The chair of the board, and I was the vice chair. Okay. He put his
Oh
hands on
my.
me one night. Okay. Stopped me and said, I missed a couple of meetings. I was having a tough time. I missed a couple of meetings. And he took it upon himself to say,
Oh.
hey, smarten up. Why didn't you come to the meetings? Okay. You know, clue in. We're a mental
Yeah.
health group.
Yeah.
Okay, like that's what we do. People have a challenge. You know, we can't always show up.
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought no, so I quit. Okay, and those kind of things you go okay, don't need it. It helped me.
That's a
Steered
good
me well
example
for a
of what
number of
not to
years.
do.
Okay, but I thought what? Yeah,
Yeah.
you say okay, I don't need that in my life, right? Okay, um um I'm in therapy. Okay, my therapist said to me. You know, your friends aren't around. I said, no. So what are you going to do? She, are you going to stay angry, hurt, upset by it all? Or are you going to dismiss them from your life because they're not your
Mm.
friends? Okay. Tough one. Okay. It took a while, but they're history. They're gone. Okay. I've since met other people. Okay. Who have been wonderful to me over the years through mental health. Okay. Some amazing people who I may hear from just occasionally
Yeah.
or make my day. Okay. I trust them. I believe them. Okay. Um, yeah. So, I mean, I kind of look at it like, okay, you know, again, self-care, look
Right.
after myself. Okay. Stigma. Well, talk about mental health is the best we can do. And maybe people will catch on.
For me, like when you're saying that, like I just keep picturing like the fact that
Yeah.
even though your group is small, um, they're the people that are you still have in your life because you want them there and because they are your support. So without them, you wouldn't feel like you
Yeah.
were living well.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like
Exactly. That's
me when
right.
I was younger and growing up too, like it would be more like quantity over quality. So when I was growing up, I was heavily masking and I was also didn't feel like I fit in. And I also had undiagnosed ADHD, so I had many, many, many things I like to do. Um, so I had like a group of people for each thing I like to do. Like I was an athlete, so I had my athlete friends, and then I liked loud music and skateboarding, so I had those friends, and then I had the popular friends because you have to kind of fit in with the people because if you don't want to be made fun of, I was made fun of too. Who else? Like I had like t so many different groups of people. And like
Yeah.
I at the time felt like that was necessary. As I get older and realize myself more, I realized that no, I did not need all those people
Yeah.
in my life. And the community that to me is like what Keith was saying, or the people I could depend on, or the people that not that I were in my immediate community, so to speak, because I grew up in small town, so or small area. So I kind of resented the fact that everyone knew my business, to be honest. And then I get older and I was like, okay, like there are people that actually care. They're not just gossiping. Like there are people that will be there for me. And that was very important to me. My first I guess uh boat as an adult with counseling was not a positive one. Like I had a therapist who refused to see me without being medicated. She made me be medicated to see her. She would force me to allow students to come in on our sessions, even though I was very, very uncomfortable with it. So it was like one of those things that this is my early 20s, and for the first time, I'm actually saying I need help. And this is the help I got. So it was like, okay. like, I had to lean very heavily. Thankful at the time I had really good friends and they helped me in sort of my support system. But um, yeah, to me, community is not competing. To me, community is lifting each other up. It's knowing that there's enough for everyone and that a healthy community is a better community. Uh, so if we can help each other to grow and help each other to be healthy and happy, and we're not always happy, but I'm generally happy, then that's kind of my goal personally. So that's how I see it.
Like it.
I like that.
And it's a lot easier to be resilient and tough when you have someone backing you. Hello. You know,
Oh yeah.
we're not like, all those fantasy books where like there's like teenage heroes that, save the world. Uh, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
They
there's
always have friends who
always
are
someone
helping
there
women
too.
sidekicks.
Yeah, with us. So
Always.
thank you
Yeah.
to you both for being so vulnerable
Wow.
and chatting about
Thank you.
this. Um, as we said before, we have lots of services, so we will put our information to get in contact with us in the notes for this episode. But we are from Worth Living, also Spirit and Soul Wellness Center. Anything you would like to send us off with, please do so, Amber and Keith. But that will be my sign off. We're good.
Yep.
Just that I had a great conversation, and I think this is
Awesome.
lovely. I can't wait to do it again next week.
Yeah, same here. Thanks to both of you. Like I mentioned, okay, I'm enjoyed it. Important to do. Okay. Anybody who's listening and watching, thanks for doing so. Okay. And like Audrey said, we'll be doing more these podcasts more often. Okay. And we'll be covering specific topics and such. If anybody has any ideas out there, suggestions, please let us know. Okay. And we hope maybe we can bring in
Absolutely, that is our
special
intention.
guest once.
And before we leave, oh, sorry.
We'll give it a run.
Before we leave, I just want to mention, we will have trigger warnings on this as well because we did talk about some things that could trigger people. And if you feel like you might need some help, some
Yes.
mental health help or are in crisis, please know that our national resources are to dial 988, which is our suicide and crisis lifeline that is available 24/7.
Yeah.
And they also can call or text 988. So thank you guys, and we'll talk next time.